Join me today as we get busy making some beautiful background papers using up some old paper that maybe we're not all that crazy about. We will end up with some signature pages. We will end up with some cute little pockets, and we will end up with a bunch of labels that can be used in your junk journaling, as well as just some leftover scrappy bits that I will explain to you what can be done with those. Let's get started. Let's take a look at the supplies real quick that you will need. You will need any kind of paper that you have laying around. I am using 12 by 12 sheets. You do not need to start with that. We're actually going to cut these down anyway. And I chose ones that I knew that I would never just pick up and use as is. This one is kind of a bridal lace. It reminds me of. It has kind of a purplish gray background tint to it. This one is orange polka dot. Don't ever see me picking that up and using it as is. And the same with this pink. I'm not sure if those are supposed to be butterflies or flower petals. So, and then I just did pull just a plain. If that's all you have to start with, that's fine too. It'll still look amazing. So you need paper. Then we all, I'm sure if you've been doing this for any amount of time, have a stamp collection addiction. If not, you soon will. So just pull all those stamps that you may have been hoarding, and you will be surprised at what you end up using. I couldn't tell you where most of these came from, unfortunately. Some honestly were the Dollar Tree. Some were gifted to me from someone, a dear friend that no longer is crafting. So, and I believe this one is from Michael's. And actually this one may be Temu. Not that I promote ordering things from Temu, but, and then I believe that the stencil is from there as well. So if you have any stencils, I have this one that is, let's see if you can see it on here. This one is there, just some odds and ends of flowers and kind of scroll work. This one is postage and script that you can't read. And then I just pulled this one because I might do one that's has like kind of a groovy feel to it, of an old retro feel. I just have things laying out around me. I'm not sure exactly which I'm going to be using yet. Then I have a couple different inks, and I will tell you what colors I'm using when I go to reach for those. I also have this little stamp that's just like a little distressed stamp that came actually from the thrift store, which a lot of these have come from. And then nearby I have a scissors and a ruler, and we're going to trim these down later. So you'll either need those two things if you just want to tear them for the rough look, or if you have a paper trimmer, you can use that also. Or you will need some glue. Corner rounder if you have it, you don't need it. And I think that's about it. So let's get moving here. I'm going to start with this lace one first. Okay, and I have my little piece of scrap paper there because I like to run my stamps off the edge, not try to keep them within the border. I think what we will do is I will get you started stamping and show you what I'm doing and what my thought process is, and then I will cut out and finish it and then come back when I'm ready to pick up the next part and show you the next step. Otherwise, it's going to get very long video, and you watching me stamp all this is going to be like watching paint dry. So we will break it down like that, and then when I get to the end of each paper, I think we'll do 2 or 3, I will show you what you can make out of that paper quickly. So once you see me stamp, if you're done with that part, feel free to fast forward to the point where I am folding and cutting and showing you what I'm making out of here. Okay, so to get started, I usually stamp with a brown of some sort. This time I'm using Vintage Photo. Whatever you have will work. And I do it in layers. So I'm going to stamp this one first, I think with some of the script and maybe some of the postal stuff to set that back. And then we're going to do another layer in another color that is going to bring that up a little bit. And all of it is going to set back this lace part that I'm not crazy about. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is just take one of these and an acrylic block. Just use whatever you have. Your stamps do not need to match what I'm doing. This is just a technique. It's not going to turn out looking exactly like the one that I made. I'm just showing you that the technique that I use. If you do like these kind of old-timey stamps, if you do a search for vintage script stencils or vintage script stamps, you will get some of this type of thing coming up. Or vintage postal, you'll get some of the ones that come up that will have like the old postage marks and stuff on. So you can see I went off the edge with that. I don't like to have everything have a border. I just don't care for that look. So then I'm going to go somewhere else on my page and do like more of a ghost stamp. So this one's going to be not as dark as that first one, but still add some character to the page. So you can see it's there. It's just not as dark as the first one. And I like to just keep using this one stamp several times. I don't just stamp once and switch it up. So let's just do one here in the middle. And then again, I'm going to do just kind of a ghost stamp off the edge. So I'm going to come over here and let's do that. If you were using a much smaller piece, then you probably would maybe want to switch your stamps out more often, but I'm just doing it this way on this large 12 by 12. I think we'll go up here with one. I'll chop that one off even further. And come down here for another ghost. Am I even on camera here? Let me scooch up a little bit. Okay, so cut that one off a little. I will go back and wipe all these off then later with a baby wipe. I'm not going to put you through that. Let's see. I think we'll take another one of these that's a little bit larger. And I need a different acrylic block for that. Okay, so this is what I would consider the first layer. Of the background paper. And that is on there really crooked. Okay. And I don't mind either if my stamps cross over each other. It actually kind of looks nicer as a more of a collage type of a background page. I'm going to move on to just something else that I can do in the brown. Maybe we'll use like one of these medallion type. I believe was one from a Goodwill, actually. Goodwill now, I noticed, bundles up all their stamps. So you have to buy it by the bag full and you don't exactly know what you're getting because they're in there on top of each other. That's kind of like luck of the draw. So I'm going to add some of these in as well. And again, plain is on the bottom. Okay. So I just kind of arranged them in a cluster here. And we will get those on. And again, no worries if you don't have these exact stamps. The chances that you would have these exact stamps are probably pretty low. So just do your own thing with what you have. Be creative. Just let this be a little tutorial on the technique, and then you just run with it of how you want to do it. Okay, so let's get those off of there. We'll clean those up and put them away later. I'm going to take this stencil now that has the old script on it and some postal marks there, and just kind of fill in some of the spaces. And sorry ahead of time if this shakes the camera. Again, I run it right off the edge. And I don't care if it's going over some of the stamping that's already there. I want it to look more of like a collage type thing anyway. Okay. For the next layer, I'm going to choose a stamp and a color. So for this one, I'm going to do green, and I think I'm going to pick something that's kind of floral. And I'm going to use the one called Old Paper. And I still just kind of like this to be kind of subtle. And it doesn't matter where you start or what it goes over. It's just going to add another little layer there. I think maybe my stamp needs a little bit of water. I just have this little mini mister, came from Michael's, just to make that a little more wet. So I got some of the floral stamped on there. I started out using the one called Old Paper, but it must be dried up. It is not cooperating. So then I switched over to antique linen. And that's what I used for kind of the floral marks. That just brings everything up a little bit more. So the last thing I'm going to do is I have this one that makes the little distress marks. So I'm going to do that. I switched back to Vintage Photo, and I'm just going to place those around here and there. If you don't have one of these stamps, you can use a little piece of bubble wrap, or you can water down some ink or some acrylic paint and just kind of flick it onto the paper. Just make sure you are somewhere where it's not going to matter if it misses the paper. Put down some scrap paper. So I'm just going to go around with this different places and just kind of look where maybe needs filled in a little bit. I did also, off camera, got my stencil back out and just added stenciling a few more places, including where this one that said ticket that had an airplane and it didn't stamp correctly. So I just stenciled the postage lines right over top of there, and now I just put some of this there. So it just blends in and nobody will know that it's there. So right now I'm just kind of looking for any spots that look a little blah. This was, I don't even know what kind of stamp this was in a Goodwill find. So now we have all of our layers on, which we did some with stamp, some with stencil, and then some in the brown, the Vintage Photo, and then some with the antique linen. You can use, again, whatever colors that you have. So this one I'm going to cut down into an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and then I will show you what we have left. We have an 8.5 by 11 sheet. We also have this strip of extra and this little tiny skinny strip of extra. So I'll show you what we can do. For this, I would probably use this as a signature page. So this could be folded in half and sewn into a journal like that. It could be cut into pockets or tags. But to store it, I would store it like this because I would not be positive what I'm going to do with it yet. Probably a signature page, which it could be cut down even smaller if you would need it to be. It could also be put in a journal this way, skinny style, and you could trim it here if you needed to. It all depends on what size that your journal is. Then we have this little tiny strip left, which this I would use as, get this back out here. If this were in my journal like this, you could use it as a decorative strip along the edge of one of the pages. It could also be cut down and made into page tabs, or it can be torn and made into clusters, like we made some Christmas clusters in one of the videos, and I will link that. Or I will probably be doing another video on making clusters as well. But those are just a few ideas that you can do with this. Then for the strip that's left, I just do a very simple pocket, or pockets actually. So I'm going to, not measuring, just fold it in half. If you want to be precise, you may measure. If you've watched me long enough, probably know I do not like to measure. So I'm going to just get it as straight as I can here, and I'm just going to tear it with the ruler. Put that piece aside. Then for this, make a fold about, and here I am going to measure, about 2 inches, but again, just eyeball it. About 2 inches up. Actually, make sure yours is straight. And then once I have that crease right there, then I'm going to fold one more time. So we have this, which becomes the top of the pocket, and you're going to make another fold like that. And I will do it again at the bottom so you can see. Okay. So we folded it up about 2 inches. And then we folded it up again about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And just try and keep it as straight as you can. Okay, so then you are going to end up with a pocket here once we do our gluing. So then down here, I'm just going to fold this up. Again, not measuring. And just making another little fold there. So you'll end up with a pocket here and a pocket here. Okay, and we will do it again so you can see it. So I am going to ink on these edges so that they're visible. And you wouldn't have to use the brown for this. You could use whatever you want. And let's see. If you want to use the corner rounder, you can do that. You don't have to. Or you can do it by hand. Rounding the upper corners. And looks like it was off a little bit there, so I'm just going to trim that. Okay, and then if you want to, this is a 1 inch circle punch, so I'm just going to I'm just eyeballing it right there. And again right there, and then ink that. Okay, so then when this is folded, you have this to glue, and you can glue it in a journal that you could have a pocket here, and a pocket here, and a pocket here. And we're just going to put glue along the edges right there, and glue that section down. And then the same thing on this, put a little glue here, here, and glue that section down. And then underneath here, this all gets glue. So let that dry a little bit before you actually stick things in it. But so you'll have a pocket here, and then a pocket here. Okay, so then for the other one, it's going to be the same way. You're going to fold up about 2 inches, make a crease. Then you're going to slide that up. To make this little pocket here. And then from the bottom, you're just going to slide that up again. And you're making this pocket here. The other thing it does doing it that way is if you have something that is directional, it will stay right side up. All right, so then you can just do what we did before, round the corners. You can ink and you can punch your little thumb cuts there if you want to, and do the gluing. So out of that 12 by 12, we got possibly a signature page, or if we wanted to cut it into tags or pockets, we got these two little pockets, and then we got the strip that can be used as an edge or made into tabs or made into clusters. I would hang on to this. Okay, I'm going to do the next sheet and I will be right back with you. I just did some of the script stamp lightly in the antique linen, and I didn't put the lid back on. And let's see. So I'm going to now just build up some other colors, and it's going to be a bright one. I'm going to do some flowers and some retro stamps and see what we end up with. I used the Mode Lawn and I added a couple of these flower stamps, and then I did some of the ghost stamps with those also. And then I used Wild Honey for this, but then when I did the ghost stamp for that, I didn't care for it. It came out more of a strange yellow color rather than the orange. So I don't think I only did 2 of those. I didn't like those. I decided I think I'm going to make these into labels. So I will show you how to do that after I fill up this page a little bit more. So here's where I'm at so far. I added some Be Happy words and some arrows, and took the purple, which is called Seedless Preserves, and I added some of that different places and some little retro flowers. And then the arrows and the Be Happy are just in the vintage photo. So now I think I'm going to add a couple of flowers from the stencil yet, just to bring it up one more level. I'm just going to put the last 1 or 2 of these on, and I am using Worn lipstick. And I did not have any more of the daubers, and obviously this pink would not work with what already has all the brown on it. So this is just an old wooden spool of thread that was actually out of my grandma's sewing kit. And then you can buy just extra pieces of these little foam pads at Michael's. So I did that. And I would imagine you could probably cut up like a makeup sponge, or even maybe use a piece of felt. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But if you don't have one of the daubers, don't let that stop you from doing this. So there's ways to get around it. So I'm going to add that there yet. And I think I'll just do a partial one up here at the top. And you can see I'm not worried about going over other flowers or anything, or I'm sorry, other stamps. Everything is just being collaged on there. This is what we have. And you can see the original way back in here, that original script stamp that I used just went right back into the background, but it helped to knock back some of the orange polka dots. I'm wishing I would have had a different shade of orange. This did all right. You use what you have. I wanted to add a couple numbers on here yet. So let me just pull a couple of these off, and I'm just going to stamp them around. Now what we're going to do is make some labels by cutting this apart. So I dug through my rubber stamps, and I found some stamps that look like labels, and I stamped them out on a piece of scrap paper just so I could see what they were. If you don't have stamps, you can just cut some, obviously some bigger pieces, but you can cut whatever size labels you think you would want, and out of cardstock, and then just trace around them, and you still have to cut just like I'm going to have to cut using the stamps. The only one that had any type of mark on it, these were all together. There was actually all of these together in a kit from Goodwill, and the only one that had any kind of mark was on, says Stampin' Up! 1999. So these have been around a very long time. I'm going to start with the biggest one, and I'm going to use black for these. And I'm going to start with the bigger one and then work my way down in size to the smaller ones and kind of fill in any spots. And then if there's some that I don't really have room to squeeze a stamp into, then I will just cut those out by hand. Okay, now when we were decorating the background paper, I said it didn't matter if you ran off the edge. So for this, though, I want to make sure that I do stay on the paper, just going as close as I can to the paper edge. Just one or two more of those. All right, so you get the idea. Now I'm going to switch to the next size down and still using black. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, so now we have one right there. That's all right. Put this one down here. Okay, let's try that again. Sometimes if they don't want to stick, this is just a baby wipe, make that a little damp. And that does not bother me, so I'm just going to ignore that it's even there and just keep stamping. When you use a label, I usually collage over some of it anyway, so if there's a mark that is bugging me, then I will just put something with a collage over top of it. No sense in wasting that paper. Okay, let's put another one in here. And then you can also turn them and go the other direction with them. You get the idea. I'm just going to work my way through, finishing with these small ones, and I will be back to show you how it looks. So I got everything stamped, and for like the space here and here where none of the stamps would fit, I just used the piece of paper that I had cut, and actually I missed this whole space down here, and just traced around it with a Sharpie marker. And this one that I used, that is this one, that did come from the Dollar Tree. This is a packet I had found there, so I don't know if they still have it or not. It's probably 6-8 months ago, maybe. But that might be one place to check. Okay, so the next step would be to cut all of these out, and I'm not going to put you through watching me do that. So I will be back in a minute. All right, I timed myself. That took about 10 minutes. And this is what I have. I ended up with 30 of them. So I'm going to do the same technique as I have done on all the rest of them, and we will see what it turns out to be. This one is finished, and I think this one is probably my favorite so far. I just did the same technique. I started in the background with this type of stamp. I used Vintage Photo. For the blues, I used Weathered Wood. And then for the numbers, I used Walnut. And I got really pretty. I just used the same technique and started in the background and built everything forward. So I will decide what I'm going to do with this, and I will be back in a moment to show you. Here is what I ended up doing. I'm just cut this into an 8.5 by 11 just to save for possibly a signature page, or maybe to make some pockets or something out of. And then the rest on that extra strip that I had, like we did in the first one, I made some labels. And for some of them I stamped black, and some of them I stamped like the walnut. I didn't care much for those, so I ended up going around them again with the black ink. And then I had 2 little spaces left where I didn't have a stamp that would fit, so I cut them out myself. And then for those, I used the corner rounder, and instead of going around them with a Sharpie, then I just went around them with ink. And this one I did the black, and this one just went around with walnut. For this one, I ended up with this 8.5 by 11 that I'm saving, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 labels. And then I have this leftover strip that I'll save probably for clusters, because that got really pretty. So out of the 3 sheets of paper, we have this one that was on the pink. We have the one we completely cut up that was on the retro. We ended up getting 30 labels out of that one. And then we did this one, which I, again, saved 8.5 by 11. And we made the little pockets out of those. And I also had previously done this one, which has the, done the same way, but this one has some green on it. And I also made the pockets out of that and had an extra strip that is now on the floor. Okay, so let me know which one was your favorite out of them. And like I said before, do not worry if you don't have the same stamps. I just wanted to show you the technique of how I do that to make some background pages that then you can do a bunch of things with. I also wanted to mention it doesn't matter that you have the distress inks or not. Use whatever you have. I tend to buy these little ones just so I can try out the color. And then if I like the color, we'll be getting like the vintage photo and the walnut, which I use a lot. I do need to get the bigger ones of those, but like for instance, the wild honey, which I am not really too crazy about. So I will not be purchasing that in the larger ink pad. So that's just a little tip. All right. I hope this inspires you to get creative and make some background papers for yourself. And I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.